Picture this. The world outside my window is a muted gray, the kind of gray that seeps into your bones and makes you wonder if the sun ever truly existed. I'm Marissa, 74 years old, and I've spent the last 19 years of my life tethered to a man named Ethan. My husband, my companion, my quiet shadow. Our marriage isn't a battlefield. There are no raised voices or shattered dishes. Instead, it's a soft unraveling, a slow drift into a space where we're more like old friends sharing a roof than lovers who once couldn't bear to be apart. I don't think it's a lack of want. Deep down, I believe we still crave that fire, but somewhere along the way, we forgot how to reach for it. Life, with its endless parade of small tasks and predictable days, wrapped us in its monotony until we couldn't see beyond the next grocery list or doctor's appointment. Our home is a tiny sanctuary, a modest bungalow that smells of aged wood and lavender from the sachets I tuck into drawers. It's a place where every corner holds a piece of us. There's Ethan's armchair, its leather worn thin from years of him sinking into it with a book or just staring out at nothing, lost in thoughts he rarely shares. My collection of photo albums lines a shelf in the living room, their covers faded, the pages inside yellowed with time. I don't open them often anymore. But when I do, I'm met with snapshots of a younger us, smiling at picnics, dancing at weddings, holding hands on beaches I can't even name now. Those albums are like silent witnesses, guarding the history of a love that's grown comfortable, if not quite cold. Ethan himself is a man carved from quiet strength. His face is weathered, etched with lines that tell stories of laughter and worry, and his eyes, oh, those kind hazel eyes, still carry a flicker of the boyish charm I fell for all those years ago. He's introspective, always has been, the kind of person who thinks more than he speaks, who feels deeply but buries it beneath a calm exterior. I've learned to read the subtle shifts in his mood, the way his shoulders slump just a little when he's tired, or how his fingers tap restlessly on the table when something's on his mind. We've built a life together, a steady one, but there's an ache in me, a tender bruise that presses against my heart when I realize how far we've drifted from the passion that once defined us. I think of his brother Julian sometimes, though he's more a shadow than a presence in our lives. I've only met him a handful of times over the years, usually at stiff family gatherings where words were few and smiles were forced. Julian is an enigma, reserved to the point of being almost unreachable, with a gaze that seems to look right through you. There's something about him that unsettles me, though I can't quite place it, a sense of mystery that clings to him like a second skin. But that evening, as I sat in our living room, it wasn't Julian on my mind. It was Ethan, and the way the dim light cast long shadows across his face, making him look both familiar and distant all at once. The old radiator hummed softly in the corner, a constant, comforting drone that filled the silence between us. I was curled up on the couch with a cup of chamomile tea, the warmth seeping through the porcelain into my hands, when Ethan turned to me from his armchair. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but there was a weight to it, a quiet insistence that made me set my tea down and really listen. "Marissa," he said, his hazel eyes locking onto mine with a rare intensity. "I want you to visit my childhood home, see it, bring me back some of its quiet." I blinked at him, puzzled. Bring back some of its quiet? What did that even mean? I searched his face for a clue, but all I found was that urgency, a flicker of something desperate beneath his usual calm. I wanted to ask, to press him for an explanation, but the look in his eyes stopped me. It was as if he was entrusting me with something fragile, something he couldn't put into clearer words. So I just nodded, my voice soft as I replied, "Okay, Ethan, I'll go." He gave a small, relieved smile, the kind that barely reaches the eyes, and turned back to the window, leaving me with a swirl of questions I didn't dare voice. The next morning, I started preparing for the trip. I pulled out a small, weathered suitcase from the back of the closet, the same one we'd used for weekend getaways decades ago. I packed light, just a few changes of clothes, a scarf for the chilly countryside air, and a small notebook with a pen tucked into its spine. I figured I'd jot down whatever thoughts came to me, maybe try to capture that elusive quiet Ethan was after. As I folded each item and placed it carefully inside, a strange mix of curiosity and unease settled in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a simple errand, that there was something deeper waiting for me at that house. But I pushed the thought aside, zipping up the suitcase with a decisive tug. The drive to Ethan's childhood home was long and solitary, the kind of journey that gives you too much time to think. I left early, the sky still a pale lavender as I guided my old sedan out of town and onto the winding country roads. The landscape unfolded around me like a painting, rolling hills dusted with the first hints of autumn, their greens fading into golds and rusts. The roads narrowed as I went, turning from asphalt to dirt, the tires crunching over gravel and kicking up faint clouds of dust in my rearview mirror. The air grew sharper, carrying the scent of pine through the cracked window, a smell that reminded me of simpler times, of walks with Ethan when we were younger, and the world seemed full of endless possibilities. I'm Marissa, still on this journey to Ethan's childhood home. And as I finally pulled up to the weathered farmhouse at the end of that dirt road, a chill crept up my spine that had nothing to do with the autumn air. The house loomed before me, its paint peeling like old skin, the windows dark and uninviting, as if they were eyes watching my every move. I stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching underfoot, and felt the weight of the place settle over me like a heavy fog. Julian was already there, waiting on the sagging porch, his figure as still as a statue, his expression unreadable. We exchanged a few curt words, just enough to acknowledge each other's presence, before he led me inside with a nod, his silence as unsettling as ever. Now, as I wander through these rooms the next day, Julian's cryptic words from last night echo in my mind like a haunting refrain. This house remembers more than both of you. I can't shake them off, can't stop wondering what he meant. My fingers trail over the objects that fill this space, each one a relic of a life I only know through Ethan's sparse stories. There's an old photograph on the mantel, its edges curled with age, showing two young boys, Ethan and Julian, I assume, grinning with gap-toothed smiles, their arms slung around each other in a way that speaks of a bond I've never seen between them in the years I've known them. I pick up one of Ethan's childhood drawings pinned to the wall in a small bedroom down the hall, the paper brittle under my touch. The crayon lines depicting of a stick-figure family under a lopsided sun. It's so innocent, so full of a child's hope, and yet holding it now, I feel a pang of something I can't name, a heaviness in the air that seems to cling to every surface. The house itself is a museum of forgotten things. The wallpaper in the living room is faded, its floral pattern barely visible under layers of dust and time, peeling at the corners like it's trying to escape the walls. The scent of aged wood permeates every room, mingling with a faint mustiness that speaks of years of neglect. As evening falls, the light shifts, casting long, jagged shadows across the hardwood floors, stretching and twisting like specters reaching out from the past. I move from room to room, my footsteps creaking on the uneven boards, feeling like an intruder in a place that's both foreign and achingly familiar through the lens of Ethan's life. Every creak, every groan of the house settling feels like a whisper, as if the walls themselves are trying to tell me something I'm not ready to hear. Night comes swiftly, the darkness outside pressing against the windows like a living thing. I'm alone in the guest bedroom, the single bed creaking under my weight as I try to settle in. The quilt is threadbare, smelling faintly of mothballs, and the room is cold despite the extra blanket I've pulled over myself. Sleep won't come. My mind is too tangled with thoughts of Ethan, of Julian, of this house and its secrets. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl outside, or the distant rustle of leaves. Then I hear it, a soft creak just beyond the door. My breath catches as I sit up, the dim light from the hallway outlining a figure in the doorway. It's Julian. His silhouette is sharp against the faint glow, his presence filling the small space with an intensity that makes my heart pound in a way I haven't felt in years. He steps closer, slow and deliberate, and I can barely make out his features in the dark, just the glint of his eyes, the hard line of his jaw. My hands clutch the edge of the quilt, a flimsy shield against whatever this moment holds. He stops just at the edge of the bed, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from him, and then his hand brushes mine. It's not an invitation, not a question, but a silent acknowledgement of something unspoken, something that has been simmering beneath the surface since the moment I arrived at this house. My breath hitches, and for a fleeting second I'm not Marissa, the 74-year-old woman bound by years of routine and quiet resignation. I'm someone else, someone reckless, someone alive with a hunger I thought had long since faded. What happened next is a blur, a collision of longing and forbidden heat that I can't bring myself to fully voice even now. But it happened, and as the first light of morning creeps into the guest bedroom, I'm left with the aftermath, the weight of it pressing down on me like a stone. I wake up alone, the sheets cold against my skin, as if they're trying to erase any trace of warmth from the night before. The memory of it sits heavy on my chest, a tangled knot of emotions I can't begin to unravel. I lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, watching the pale morning light filter through the dusty curtains. It's a soft, hesitant glow, barely strong enough to chase away the shadows that still linger in the corners of the room. Outside, I hear the faint chirping of birds, their songs sharp and insistent, cutting through the stillness of the house. But inside, everything feels different now, as if the very walls have turned their gaze on me, judging me for what I've done. This isn't just Ethan's childhood home anymore. It's a witness to my betrayal, a silent keeper of a secret I never meant to create. I force myself to sit up, the creak of the old bed frame echoing in the quiet. My legs feel unsteady as I swing them over the side, my bare feet touching the cold hardwood floor. I don't want to move, don't want to face the day, but staying here, trapped in this room with the ghosts of last night, is worse. So I stand, pulling the quilt around my shoulders like a shield, and shuffle out into the hallway. I move through the house in a daze, my steps slow and deliberate, as if I'm afraid of disturbing something I can't see. I avoid the mirrors as I pass them, unable to meet my own eyes. What would I see there? Guilt? Shame? Or worse, a flicker of something I don't want to admit to myself. The living room is empty, the faded wallpaper and dusty furniture unchanged. Yet everything feels altered, tainted by my actions. I pause by the mantel, my gaze falling on that old photograph of Ethan and Julian as boys, their innocent smiles mocking me now. I turn away quickly, my throat tight, and make my way to the kitchen. Julian is gone. There's no sign of him, no note, no trace of his presence, not even the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air. It's as if he vanished into the morning mist, leaving me to grapple with the wreckage alone. His absence only deepens the turmoil churning inside me, a storm of questions with no answers. Did he feel anything? Was it just a fleeting moment for him, or does he carry the same weight I do now? I sink into a chair at the kitchen table, my hands wrapping around a cup of coffee I don't remember pouring. It's gone cold, the bitter taste mirroring the bitterness in my heart. I stare at the dark liquid, my mind replaying every moment of last night in excruciating detail. The way Julian's touch ignited something dormant in me, a spark I thought had died years ago. The way I didn't pull away, didn't stop it, even when I knew I should have. I search for regret, dig deep into the corners of my soul for it, but it's not there, not fully. Instead, there's a hollow ache, a mix of shame and a startling realization. For the first time in years, I felt alive, truly, vibrantly alive. And that terrifies me more than anything else. What does this mean for me, for my marriage, for the life I've built with Ethan over nearly 2 decades? How do I reconcile the woman I was last night with the woman I've been all these years? I clutch the cup tighter, my knuckles whitening, as I sit there in the cold, empty kitchen of Ethan's childhood home, the weight of my actions pressing down on me like a physical force. My mind is a whirlwind, spinning with thoughts I can't control, and my heart, my heart feels like it's been cracked open, raw and exposed. I know I can't stay here, hiding in this house that feels more like a tomb now, suffocating me with its memories and secrets. I have to face Ethan. I have to tell him, or at least try to, even if the words choke me. The thought of hearing his voice, of seeing the hurt in those kind, hazel eyes, makes my stomach twist into knots. But I can't keep this buried inside me. It's eating me alive. I push the cold coffee away and stand, my legs still shaky, but I force myself to move. I find my phone on the counter, its screen dark and unassuming, yet it feels like a grenade in my hand, ready to detonate everything I've known. My thumb hovers over Ethan's name for what feels like an eternity, my breath shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. Finally, I press the call button, and the ringing starts, each tone a hammer striking against my nerves. When he picks up, I hear the familiar sound of his breathing first, steady and calm, before his voice comes through, soft but clear. "Marissa, everything okay?" My throat tightens, and I can barely get the words out. My voice shakes, trembling like a leaf in a storm, as I force myself to speak. "Ethan, I was with your brother." The confession hangs there, heavy and jagged, cutting through the line between us. There's a silence on the other end, a void so deep it feels like it could swallow me whole. It stretches on, endless, suffocating, and I grip the phone tighter, waiting for something, anger, disbelief, anything. But there's nothing, just that empty quiet. and I wonder if he's even still there, if he's hung up without a word. My mind races, picturing him sitting in his armchair at home, staring out at the gray world beyond our window, processing what I've just admitted. Then, finally, he speaks, and his voice is calm, almost resigned, like he's been expecting this all along. I know. Those two words hit me like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. I'm stunned, frozen in place, the phone pressed so hard against my ear it hurts. How could he know? My thoughts spiral, tumbling over each other in a frantic rush. Did Julian tell him? Was there some unspoken understanding between them, something I've been blind to all this time? Or has Ethan seen through me, through the cracks in our marriage, for longer than I ever realized? My voice cracks as I ask, barely above a whisper. Did you plan this? His answer comes swift and sharp, slicing through my confusion. No, but I hoped. I couldn't give you what he did. Now we're both free. I stand there, rooted to the spot, as his words sink in, each one a stone dropped into the still waters of my mind, sending ripples of shock and clarity outward. Hoped? Free? My emotions flood over me in waves, confusion first, a dizzying fog that blurs everything, followed by a hot flash of anger at the idea that he might have orchestrated this trip, this moment, as some kind of twisted release. But then, beneath it all, there's a flicker of relief, fragile and unexpected, mingling with a strange sense of liberation I don't fully understand yet. Has Ethan felt this disconnect between us for years, just as I have? Did he sense the cage our marriage had become, a quiet prison of routine and unspoken longing, and see this as a way to unshackle us both? I can hear his breathing through the phone, slow and steady, a rhythm I've known for nearly 2 decades. In my mind, I see his face, those weathered lines, the tired slope of his shoulders, the hazel eyes that always seemed to carry a quiet sadness I could never reach. I picture him now as I hang up the phone, my hand trembling, the silence of the house rushing back in to fill the void left by Ethan's voice. I stand there for a long moment, staring at the cracked linoleum of the kitchen floor, trying to make sense of what just happened. His words, "I hoped, now we're both free," echo in my mind like a riddle I can't solve. Free. What does that even mean for someone like me? Someone who spent nearly 2 decades building a life around quiet routines and shared silences. I feel the weight of that freedom, but it's not light or liberating. It's heavy, like a stone in my chest, pressing down with the uncertainty of what comes next. I move through the house one last time, my footsteps slow and deliberate, as if I'm walking through a dream I'm not ready to wake from. I pack my things in silence, folding each piece of clothing with a mechanical precision that keeps my hands busy while my mind spins. The small suitcase sits open on the bed in the guest room, the same bed where everything changed, and I can't help but pause, my fingers lingering on the edge of the quilt. The air in here feels different now, charged with a memory I can't erase. I close my eyes for a moment, and I can almost feel the heat of Julian's presence again, the way it pulled me out of myself, if only for a fleeting night. There's a betrayal in that memory, yes, but there's also a release, a raw, aching release that I didn't know I needed until it happened. I zip up the suitcase with a final tug and carry it to the hallway, setting it down by the door. But before I leave, I take one last walk through Ethan's childhood home. My feet carry me through the living room, past the faded wallpaper and the old photograph on the mantel that still seems to watch me with silent judgment. I move down the narrow hall to the small bedroom where I found his childhood drawing, the stick-figure family under that lopsided sun. I stand there, staring at the brittle paper pinned to the wall, and feel a pang of something bittersweet. This house holds so much of Ethan's past, pieces of him I've only ever glimpsed through stories and faded relics. And now, it holds a piece of me, too. A piece I'm not sure I can reclaim, or even want to. I linger in the guest room one last time, the room where it all unfolded. The curtains are still drawn, the light dim and gray, casting soft shadows across the hardwood floor. I sit on the edge of the bed, my hands resting in my lap, and let the weight of everything settle over me. There's betrayal here, yes, in the way I crossed a line I never thought I would. But there's also a strange kind of release, a breaking open of something I've kept locked away for too long. I don't know if I can explain it, not even to myself, but sitting here, I feel the tension of years start to unravel, thread by thread, even as it leaves me raw and exposed. Finally, I stand and make my way to the kitchen. I pull the house keys from my pocket, their metal cold against my palm, and set them down on the table with a soft clink. It feels like a surrender, like I'm leaving more than just the keys behind. I take one last look around, the chipped cabinets, the worn-out chairs, the faint smell of dust and time that clings to everything. And then I walk to the door. I step outside, the autumn air sharp against my skin, and lock the door behind me. The click of the lock feels final, like I'm sealing away a chapter I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand. I load my suitcase into the trunk of my old sedan and slide into the driver's seat, the familiar creak of the leather grounding me for a moment. As I start the engine, I glance up at the house one last time. It looms there, weathered and silent, its dark windows staring back at me like unblinking eyes. I pull away slowly, the gravel crunching under the tires, and watch in the rear-view mirror as the house fades into the distance, finally releasing me from its haunting grasp as I drive toward a new beginning. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.